Welcome back to Beyond the Helmet. I'm your host, Steve McGrath, and in this episode, I'm pleased to bring you my guest who's right over my left-hand shoulder here. He's been on the victory wall this entire time. It's none other than Raider legend, Fred Biletnikoff. He spent the time to talk about his incredible Hall of Fame 14-year career that starts in the AFL before the AFL-NFL merger. No one, in my opinion, embodied the Raiders like Fred did. And he's going to talk about his entire 32-year career with Oakland because, of course, he came back as a coach after he was a player. But he's also going to talk about his foundation. He's doing tremendous work with the Biletnikoff Foundation to help young, distressed women in California. Really an incredible honor to his daughter's legacy. And they have an event coming up. That information is below, so please check that out. And now, without any further ado, although I do need to warn you, the audio is not the best. Fred comes in pretty clear. Mine's really choppy. You don't need to hear me anyway. As long as you can hear Fred talk, you're going to be good. Now, please enjoy my conversation with Fred Biletnikoff.
I am pleased to be joined by the living legend, the man that embodies the Oakland Raiders more so than anyone, in my opinion anyway, that is none other than Fred Biletnikoff. Fred, how are you doing today?
Steve, I'm doing great. Yeah, looking forward to doing this interview with you. But overall, everything's going good. Still above grass, on this side of the grass. So that's the most important thing. And everything's going, as you know, right now, everything's going a little slow. So we're just being patient and waiting for things to break.
And that's really all we can do, right, is be patient. But I'm really happy to hear that things are going well, and things can always be worse. And I know one of the things that you're looking forward to is the golf tournament. I know that was originally supposed to have already happened, but you guys are, did you say it was June or July?
July. It's July 13th. We're happy we were able to move it and get that date. Ruby Hill down in Pleasanton, California, has been very generous with us over the years. Are playing our tournament there, so it was no problem to move the tournament to July 13th. And the great thing about it, we haven't had any cancellations from anybody that committed to the May 4th time. Changing it basically 2 months later seems to fit with everybody. So we're looking forward to it. It's one of our big fundraisers of the year that we do as a foundation. And we're happy that everybody's going to be able to join us.
And of course, you haven't played football in quite some time. And I know that you've been a coach, but the foundation, I would imagine, has been such a big part of what you've been working on in the second part of your life. So can we just talk a little bit about what you're doing with the Biletnikoff Foundation for any of our listeners that aren't familiar with how you've been able to impact lives in California?
Yeah, we're obviously zeroed in on domestic violence and alcohol and drug abuse, and all the things that go along. And it's for young girls, young ladies, and that's what we focus the foundation to be based around. On that, zeroing in on that and helping the young ladies out that we've been able to do and been very successful with. And like I said, that's been our focus for all these years. And my wife does a fantastic job. She's on it 12 months out of the year, so she never quit. She's the worker in with our whole foundation. Okay, she's the one that goes out there and hits the streets and gets us people to contribute, puts on events for us and everything. And my part is just following her lead. So whenever she says, "Fred, I need you," I pop up out of the box, all right, and help out as much as I can. But since I retired from coaching, and I've had a little bit more time to spend with her to do things, but she's the real driving force behind everything we do as a foundation, and luckily for all of us. And hold on, darn it. That's bad as that. Yeah, my Polish friend would have to call now. I talk to him all the time. Yeah, he's down in St. Augustine, Florida. down there. He and Sue live in a golf community down there, so they get to play golf every day. But yeah, we keep in contact pretty often. You know,
oh, good.
Yeah, it's a lot. You know, so we were roommates for all those years in training camp. You know, he's been a big part of being able to help us out with the foundation as far as participating and, you know, with everything. So, you know, we built up a good base. A few years ago, we redid an entire home and just basically tore it down at the girls up here in Loomis at the facility there. Needed an upgrade of the house, so we're able to raise money and get donations and get a loader construction company involved, which is Angela's brother, and they just tore the whole place down and rebuilt a brand new home for the girls, and they love it. And then we're right in the middle of getting a recreation center in the back of the house built for them. It's like 1,800 square feet where they can have some offices for counseling, and the girls can go back there and do their exercises, have big screen TV, kitchens in there. So it gets them out of the house where they've been, everything's been in the house for them. So we took the building in the back and they tore that down and just rebuilt it. So it'll probably be about 2 more months and the whole facility back there for them will be done, which we're very proud of. And that's been our goal the last 5 years, to get both those things done, which we're getting done finally. So, you know, we do a lot, and, you know, we make sure we're involved with different programs throughout the Bay Area, throughout up here in Sacramento area. We have in August, we have a 5K run that we started last year, which turned out very, very well for just putting it together. Right away, Angela did that, and we had like 250 runners our first year. So we're very happy about that, and that'll be in August again. And then in November, we have our annual crab feed down in San Ramon at the Marriott down there, which will be, geez, I don't know how many years, 17, 18 years now, going on 19 years with our crab feed. So that's always a big fundraiser for us. And, you know, we get over between 500 and 600 people each year there. So, you know, those are the big things, 3 big things now we're doing. We just, like I said, we added the race, which should be very well for us to raise money. And it's at William Jessup University up here in Rockland. And so we're happy the way things go. You know, we're not a huge foundation, but we do enough to make an impact on the girls that are in Koinonia, the facility there, Koinonia, where they're I come out of the court system or wherever they may come out of, you know, for the rehabilitation. And they have a certified school there where they can finish high school or at least continue part of school up until about 5 years ago, where prior to that, if they came into the program, they would have to go back to school and start where they left when they left out of the school. Now they can go to school and just either graduate there, or at least if they're, say, a junior or sophomore, now they can go into the following year once they get out of the program. So it goes well. We do a lot of things for the girls, you know, going to different events, obviously, some football games, plays, anything that Angela puts together for the girls to be able to go and be able to enjoy something that they've never been to. She makes it a big point to make sure the girls get involved. You know, like we had about 10 girls come in and run in a race last year in August, which was great. You know, they did very well. They were happy, and we're a hands-on foundation where, you know, you just don't see somebody from the foundation. You either see Angela or myself or both of us together. So, you know, the girls know that there's somebody that cares for them, that is just not coming in and just talking to them. They're dealing with the people that actually run the foundation. And it's good. It's been a good feeling. You see a lot of questionable faces when they first come into the program, but then as they go through the program at Koinonia, and then our involvement with Koinonia, with our foundation, and you know, developing a good place for them to live, in a safe place, and a new place. I told Angela after the house got done, I would rather move in the house than the one we live in. It's beautiful. And the girls love that, you know, and they have that contact with us. And after 2 or 3 months when they're in a program, you can see a total change. which that's all we care about is the girls are happy, they get their life back together. Because it's for my daughter Tracy going through her problems as an addict, and knowing that all they care about is that somebody cares about them and somebody wants them to go forward. And that's what we're very positive about doing that. And everybody we have involved with our foundation or people that are helping us donating things to our foundation, like the house. We have so many things donated from people that they're behind the foundation 100% too. And they know our cause. They know what we're doing. They know the importance of it to the girls in their life, because there's part of their life they're never going to be able to get back again. So they've lost some ground, but at least we give them a good, positive situation to come into and live at. And we're happy about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's incredible work for young people, too, that have an entire life ahead of them. I mean, what an incredible way to, honor your daughter's legacy and continue to make an impact. So, Fred, what I really wanted to do is, thinking about these teenage people that you're able to, help. Let's get back to when you were that age, because for us to get to this point, you did a couple things on the football field, and I was really hoping that you'd be able to set the stage. Because if I have this right, when you're in high school, you're doing everything: basketball, baseball, football. You're an incredible, high jumper and track. How ultimately do you go from just this kid in Erie, Pennsylvania, to make it down to Florida State?
You know what? When you look back, I wonder too. But you know what? There's a guy named Ken Myers who was an NFL coach for years. He was raised in my hometown years ago by his aunt and uncle, and he knew one of our coaches on the team. And at that time, Ken was the offensive coordinator down at Florida State. And so they talked one time before our summer practice, and Ray Dombrowski, who was one of my coaches at Tech, told Ken about me. So Ken came and watched the practices and, went through that whole scenario about talking to me, watching us play that year and everything. And then he offered me a contract. I'm not a contract, but a scholarship to go to Florida State. And, to go from Erie, Pennsylvania, all the way down to Tallahassee was a big move for me. But something I wanted to do. And it was like an adventure, because I was going to an entirely different part of the country where the whole social scheme down in the South was totally different from where I was born and raised in. So it was a good adventure for me. Things went very well down there for me. I met a lot of good friends. I learned what it's like to be down in the South, how important the people are to me to this day, and the friends I still have down there in Tallahassee now, and just a whole different type of lifestyle. And so it was good. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing, a lot of things that people talk about, like, everything was segregated. There wasn't an African American in school or on the team that I played the whole 4 years in Tallahassee at Florida State. We always went. Jake Gaither was kind enough. There were about 7 or 8 of us from up north that went to school gratefully, at the same time through Florida State all together for all 4 years. So we got to know Coach Gaither over at Florida A&M. So, he let us come over there and work out with his guys. I met a lot of guys that even got drafted by the Raiders later, and guys that went to other teams and developed some friendships. So, we were able to really handle our time in Tallahassee, all of us together, and still be able to balance it out with where we came from, where we went to, and how we handle it was, you're talking about young guys, handling a situation that, none of us would ever think that we were going to be in a different part of the country and have to understand what it was like living in the South. But what we did, and we're all happy about it. And, to this day, I still go to Tallahassee a lot and see a lot of great friends down there, and so it's good. It was good. I loved going down there. I love Tallahassee. I love being able to go from Erie to go to another whole different part of the country and learn what that part of the country was, and then I hope I'm not getting ahead for you here. Then going from Tallahassee, Florida, right out to Oakland, California, where it was the hippie days and, flower children and all that type of deal, and a whole different scenario out here in California. So I was very fortunate. I got to be, from when I was young, in one type of how you were brought up in your life, going to another part of the country and learning about how living in the South in that type of life, and then going out to California and being a part of another type of life, So I got a better education being in those three places than I did in school.
Yeah, the life experience. But one thing that's hard for someone my age to really wrap their head around is the whole AFL NFL merger that's about to happen. But at the time that you're getting drafted and you're finishing school, you're actually getting drafted by two different teams, because at the time the American Football League is battling the National Football League. So you get drafted by Oakland, but then Detroit's drafting you at the same time. So that must have just been crazy to have the option of where do I want to play next. So what is it about, Al Davis, the silver and black? Maybe it was just getting to California. How ultimately do you decide to go west as opposed to north?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. Even though Detroit drafted me too, it never really excited me with Detroit. Even though I had a lot of respect, for the guys on that team, and Russ Thomas, who was the general manager at the time, and I went up there and visited. Got to see Lenny Moore play. All the big names in the NFL. But there was just something about going to Oakland. That the addition was the fact that, you're going to throw the football 40, 50 times a game, where you look back at the NFL at that period of time, they were still basically more towards running, and the emphasis was never put on a lot of passing, except, you had Raymond Berry, and of course you had some people with Detroit, that were great ball players, receivers, all that, but the whole emphasis I saw, it was starting with somebody new, a new league. I was young, going in with a lot of young guys. It was a period of growing with something. It was going out to California, a whole new adventure for me. And of course, then you put Al on top of it. It's like the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. Okay, but that's what I wanted to do, and of course, of course, Al had a great deal of influence. I liked Al a lot. I mean, we were together for so many years, playing and coaching, and then the emphasis on what we're going to do, because the league had to step up and go beyond I like to say, the old NFL. So we had to make an impact, and the impact was the passing game, and then when I got out to Oakland, it was, you saw that we had a lot of people on our team, a lot of players on the team that had played in the old NFL, that were older players, a very, very veteran team. And all of a sudden we were the transition kids coming in, which we're pretty well accepted by everybody. And the guys were just tough guys. That's the one thing that Al always had surrounding him with players and coaches and anybody in administration. You had to be tough. You had to have a great mind. You had to be committed to what you were doing and wanting to be there. And it was great for me. I mean, the beginning of my career there wasn't easy. I had to my first couple of years was tough years with injuries and that type of thing. But I don't know going in that direction. I don't know if I was with another team, they would have kept me. But Al kept me. Even though I struggled and I got hurt, I had a bad knee injury. but he still stayed with me and still hung with me and kept me, which I was always grateful for. And, he and I, we had our battles, but that's just normal when you put two competitors together. They're always going to buck heads. And, but I love playing for the guy. I love being on a team that was, surrounded by, like I started with Tom Flores and Dick Wood and Cotton Davidson as quarterbacks. Guys like Clem Daniels, Art Powell that we had on offense. Jim Otto was the center when I first started. He was still playing, obviously, years after that, too. And then we graduated to George Blanda coming in and Darryl LaMonica and then the Kenny Stabler, And so, starting with somebody like Tom Flores as a quarterback, because Tom was an excellent quarterback and very, very smart, very intelligent guy. And you started with a good group of guys. You started with you were introduced to a bunch of tough guys that made it through football that were still playing years later, and coming in with a group that first, actually in '65, we were actually the very first new group that Al brought in, and then it grew from there. And so he built a great team, but he had a good base to build from, and everything that Al did with the players, no matter who it was, on offense, defense, special teams, it was always an addition to the team to help the team. It was never anybody at that period of time that hurt the team, that he brought in that couldn't play. Everybody that he brought in, number one, had the opportunity to play. He was patient enough to wait for guys because we all had the opportunity to sit out at least a year or whatever and get used to being on a team, and being able to mature a little bit into being integrated into the actual team and playing. So it was a good plan he had. He had a lot of, Al was a great visionary. He could see things in guys. And that's how our team was made up. It wasn't made up of the same guys. Everybody, whatever their talent was, or whatever position, was unique at that position. And he let them grow into that position. So it was a big benefit for us and a big plus for us to have somebody like that lay out this whole plan and keep it going for a lot of years. Jeez.
Oh yeah, I mean the foundation was set, with you in those from really the jump, right? But what did he see in John Madden? Because John Roush, does a good job. I know you guys lose Super Bowl II, but good teams, and he elects to take this linebacker coach and ultimately set him on this path where he becomes a legendary coach. But can you just speak a little bit about what maybe you saw in John Madden and how he was able to get you guys in the championship game almost every year? And I'm sure that there was a good stretch there where you were like, geez, are we ever going to win the big one?
Yeah, but you're right.
What did he bring to the table?
Well, I think, first of all, he was young, and Al always wanted to have a young guy as a coach, somebody young that could actually sort of relate to the guys, sort of say, in a way. But he also had a great staff, so, and John's staff was the same staff that he had basically is pretty close to his entire career coaching. So they were already a staff that had known each other and was around each other. And then it was a few years after Tom Flores went to Kansas City. Well, I went to Buffalo and Kansas City, that Al brought him back. And I think Tom was gone maybe like 3 years, something like that. And Al brought him back as a coach, which was a big plus because Tom knew the whole offense. Because even when John took over, we never changed the offense at all. We just kept the same offense year after year, and everybody felt comfortable with it. Then when he brought Tom back to handle the offense for him, it was just another plus for John to have Tom there, because Tom basically was like the head coach, And so he knew how to run everything. He knew the players because we were all young when Tom was there, so he knew us and he knew the system he was coming into already. and he was always a favorite of Al's. You know, there's a lot of times Al didn't let guys go, and always kept an eye on them because he always wanted to bring them back coaching. Because they knew him, number one, and he knew them. And I always liked that comfort level with knowing who the coaches are personally,
Right.
and that's what he gravitated to all the time. Al, he loved to have those guys that he knew very, very well and felt comfortable around, and he could talk to. Yeah, somebody you could trust. Yeah, absolutely. So John had a great staff. Then a few years later, with the addition of Tom coming back, it was just a big plus for John and for the entire staff.
Understood. But speaking of trust, in building that trust, you with Daryl LaMonica coming in '67, that's really your first year of that 40 catches. You really make it to the Pro Bowl. How do you remember? Is it your health that allows you to get on the field? Is it Daryl trusting you? What is it that allows you to break through and have this, what begins a stretch of this incredible career that you have?
Well, you know what, when you're able, when you have a role on a team, like all of us did, we'll just talk about offense, what all of us did, we all had a role. And in that passing game, you had a role in that passing game. And then, of course, you would break out of that little role that you were playing and do something different. Each game you would have a different route or two different routes or something like that. But I like to have everybody kept in that role and what their importance was on the field. So the team and the quarterback, basically the quarterback, knew how to use you in that role. And maybe putting up different formations, maybe putting you on a weak side instead of a strong side. But you could go and you could, when you practice, you could actually count on what you were going to be doing before the season started. And that's what your comfort level was. And the quarterback got to know that comfort level on everybody. So it was easy. Well, not easy, but let me put it made it easier for the quarterback to call plays, because when situations came up on the field, we would try to get that person who played that role at that specific time or period of time on the field in that situation to get him being the main guy, and along with that, we did a lot of, I don't want to say combination routes, but one guy did this, the guy on the same side that he would do this. So you always had somebody to come back to as a secondary guy, but away from the ball, we always had that guy involved. That was away from the play call, basically, and he would be doing something over there that he had a good comfort level. So if the quarterback wanted to go in huddle, and say, for example, if myself and Dave Castro were on the same side, he could call the play on that strong side for Casper and I and make one of us the guy that he wanted to get the ball to. But if he ran into a problem, he would always have Cliff on the other side running some route. Might be another individual route, might be running a deep route, might be running a crossing route, something that it didn't interfere with the side of the play that was being called. And that was his out.
Sure.
That was the backside. That was the backside of the call.
But when I hear Dave Casper and Cliff Branch, I'm thinking of the Kenny Stabler days. So can you?
Well, Raymond Chester, Billy Cannon. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So so it was the same thing.
Okay. So it really didn't change. The guys may have changed, but the way the offense was run was still the same.
Still the same. Didn't change one bit.
Well,
not at all.
It is with, Casper, Ken Stabler, and Cliff that you guys ultimately do win the Super Bowl with that cast of characters. So can you just speak a little bit about, particularly Ken, because of course, he's not here for us to learn more from, and even Cliff for that matter. But how much did the offense, was it more of just skill that those guys brought to the table? What was it about that team that made you guys special enough to win and get over that hump?
Well, you even like when you start with Darryl, Darryl had a great deal of talent throwing the football. And even though Kenny was a sort of a different type of quarterback than Darryl, they both had the same offense. And so both of them never had to vary their game according to what we wanted to do with the football. Basically what they always say, throwing it downfield, getting it downfield all the time. But Kenny and Darryl both knew the personnel. And they knew the personnel very well. And so they could do whatever they wanted to do with the personnel. So, and they were able to do that on their own. So if you wanted to call a play, you could tell anybody in the play to run a different route. And if you ran a comeback, maybe Kenny or Darryl would go, give me a comeback and go. Or give me a slant and go, or a post corner this time, and they had that talent to be able to do that, along with knowing the offensive line and how they played, the tight ends they all had to play with. And so that was their big plus, because they both had a great deal of talent, and they knew, like I keep saying, they knew how to use the personnel to their advantage.
So it sounds like then the offense, just look at the stats, the offense always just hummed along. It was always such a good unit for a decade, if not longer. I mean, with Jim Plunkett and how things continued after your time there. But do you have any thoughts as to why in '76 things came together then? If it felt like the offense was more or less as productive as it had always been?
We finally had some calls go our way. The referees couldn't screw us. Okay. No, you know what? It was that year. It was just. We knocked on the door so many times, but the biggest thing with us as a team was the fact that we knew we were a good enough team to be there every single year. So when the years that we did fall short in the championship games, we always knew everybody's mad, everybody's pissed off. Okay, you lose, but we always knew the following year we're basically going to have the same team and the same players, and we're going to be back next year. So that was the big plus. There was never ever guessing that we might be back again next year. We all knew we'd be back next year, right in the mix. So that was the big plus for us, knowing that we had that. And then that year in '76, it seemed like all the frustration that we went through in games, that one play here, it wasn't like a whole total disaster that ever happened to us in the games we lost. It was the fact of just one play. A mistake here, mistake there. So you learn that, when you're out there playing, you don't want to be the guy to make the mistake, because, the one mistake might be the game, might cost you the game or have an effect on the game. And that's how we all learned how to play, that we were the ones that didn't want to make the mistake to hurt the team. So that's how you played. In that year, everything seemed to fall in place for us finally. And there was no taking a step back because this happened or this play happened or we had a bad call against us and that cost us the game, or the weather was this or weather was that, which was, we just, wherever we had to go play, we played. But that year, everything fell in place.
Right.
I don't want to say go our way. It was the fact that we're a very dominant team.
Yeah, you were year in and year out. Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like every year, even though the majority of us on the team were veterans. I mean, Christ, we played at least a minimum of 10 years together. That we just got better and better every year, and you could see it. You could see guys playing better and better and better every single year, and that made the big difference. And then in '76, it fell right in place. So it fell like maybe all that stuff was supposed to happen. You know, you never know. That's how life is.
Yeah,
that's part of life. Yeah, that's it. But, you know, we made it through that year and then went ahead and beat Minnesota. So, you know, that was the culmination of all of us, because there was a good majority of the guys, probably all the guys on a team that played together all those years, that were involved in losing some of those games that we lost. So we did have a frustration, you know, a lot. You know, of course you're going to get frustrated, you know, but the frustration never overwhelmed us. Right. You know, even though we could say, okay, well, that should have that. If that didn't happen, damn it, you know, this and that. You know, we would say that, you know, for after the game, maybe for a little while into the off season, but it never carried into the next year. You know, we're all starting again. You know.
Now, of course, winning cements legacy. In 76, you guys checked that box. But the mystique of the Raiders, winning is part of it. But from what I can see, pictures of you when you're in Florida State is very clean cut. But when I look at pictures of you as a Raider, the mustache, the hair, very anti-establishment feel. What was it about the culture that Al Davis had set up there that you guys were winning, but there was just the Raiders had a feel about them, and so many guys checked that box as well with just their style. Do you have any thoughts on how that came to be?
Well, my father used to say when I was a kid, he's going to be the one that's always in trouble. Okay. I was the one that always defied my father. My other two brothers didn't defy my father. I always defied my father and just lived with the consequences. So that's how basically I went through my entire life. And then when I went to Oakland, it was California that did it to me. You know, we just that was part of the whole culture. You know, and having long hair and a mustache, a little goatee. You know, it just happened. You know, nothing was ever planned. It just happened, and that was it. You know, now you became the kid from Erie to Florida State. Then all of a sudden, like you say, you look at this picture, you look at that picture. Whoa, wait a minute. You know, this guy doesn't look the same. All right, but it was just the whole situation that we were in, and you know, the times and the way society was. And the way everybody was living, and then being with the team that we had, and we were a group of guys that stuck together, so thick together, you know. But we're also very rowdy guys, and we're also a group of guys that when you went on that field, you only had one possibility of coming out here and winning. That was it. We all had that attitude, and we all had that makeup. Yeah, you know, I go back and I'm still going through all my stuff sometimes, looking at pictures. We have the bell-bottom pants and the short leather jacket, that whole deal, and you know, the whole thing. You know, it's like the dance fever. Okay, that's the outfits.
You talked about a group of guys that stuck together. I need to ask you about this other sticky thing that I've seen the highlights. I know that you did not need Stickum, but can you tell me how that became a prevalent part of just use in the NFL? And it's, of course, something that you would use. You know, how did that come about? And you clearly had the skill. So what was it about your use of it? I mean, were you trying to get in the heads of the opponents?
No, you know, it was just something comfort, you know, a comfort level, I guess. It just, you know, Speedy Duncan, we were down in San Diego when I was young, you know, was a punt returner, defensive back with the Chargers. Well, he was wearing the stuff then. And our equipment guy, Dick Romanski, goes to his equipment guy after the game and says, "What is that stuff?" So he found out that this Stickum was manufactured by this small company in San Diego. So we started getting it in, and we just started using it. We never use it in practice or anything else like that or any off season. We just use it for games. So it was almost just like a comfort level, just like just like the guys cheat with gloves now.
Yeah,
we had stick 'em. That's all.
Yeah, right.
But that was basically it. And then the more you're in the game, so into the game. You do some things subconsciously on the sideline, and that was it. You come off the field, you got yourself some water or whatever, some chewing gum, and went and sat down. And then just before, if you see, we're about to get the ball back, you go there, put a little more stickum on. So by the time the end of the game, you look at yourself, you got a hell of a lot more than you started with at the beginning of the game. So it's almost like there's never enough. But that's how that was, and it was a good comfort level. It was something that I guess subconsciously you thought that you really needed it, and I don't know, maybe at times, maybe with some catches, I'm happy I had it, but I wasn't. It was something that's the only time I used it at the game. That's
right.
it.
Now, I think that I read this. Now, did because so you have the stickum, and this is your equipment manager that's making sure that this runs. Now, did he have 2 packets of gum, like 2 Wrigley and a Spearmint or something like that?
Oh yeah, a combination, yeah.
So,
a combination, a green and a yellow. A green and a yellow. So that was the combination. Every time you come off the field, you spit what you had out, and you got another one, another green one, another yellow one. Or maybe you got 2 yellow ones and 1 green one. If the yellow and green one weren't working, then you put 2 green ones in the yellow one. All right. So you worked the combination that way all the time when they come out. And then, of course, you couldn't handle it because you couldn't take off the paper because you had to stick them on your hands.
Right.
And so Dick had to put it in my mouth all the time. So, that's the way we worked and we come off the field all the time. We didn't have mouthpiece.
Yeah, right. The 2-bar helmet with no mouthpiece.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, so as you get to the end of your career, I mean, do you, at that point, really at any point while you're playing, do you recognize, because just the level of media attention isn't what it is today. Do you understand, where you stand in like the all-time ranks, and do you understand where your teammates, I mean, the guys that you play with, so many of them are in the Hall of Fame, and then so many guys are deserving of Hall of Fame consideration. I mean, the Raiders, it felt like, consist of like a quarter of the Hall of Fame talent. And then every time, you play, particularly early on, Green Bay and the Chiefs, it's literally the pillars of which, the football as we know it, those are the guys that are credited with building it. You understand that yourself included, that you were just among so many people that would be looked at as all-time greats?
You know what? I'll tell you what. I never looked at it that way. I always looked at it that we had a lot of great ball players on our team, and thinking about down the line never even entered my mind about the people that are going to go forward into the Hall of Fame and more notoriety is because of their playing days, all that. You know what? I believe, and I know for a fact that when you get away from that and you're out of football, when you look back on all the guys that you played with, that's when it really hits you on how great those guys were, and that they were impact players, and they weren't just great players; they were impact players. They were guys that could change the game around. And people talk about, oh, he's a great player. He's great. You see very few times that, oh yeah, that's a great play. The word great is used so much nowadays, it doesn't have any meaning anymore. Years ago, when people said somebody was great, you perked up your eyes, your ears, okay? But that's got such a diluted word now. It's unbelievable. And all those guys were great, but you know what? they were impact players. They could change a game. Now, that, I don't know if there's a word for that, but great doesn't really fit into my vocabulary to call somebody that's an impact player that can change the game around just great.
Right.
You know, I don't know what word.
And there was just so many guys that you had at every position on your team over the years. I mean, your offensive line, you know, so if it's not great, it's legendary. You know, you have legendary guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a good word, legendary, right. That's a great word to use, a legendary, because they're all legends. They, like I said, you know, when you find somebody, you could, you know, when somebody tells you that there is somebody on a field that makes an impact on the game, or they're going to make an impact on the game, or impact in this game, or whatever, you know, you pay attention a little bit more. You know, and when somebody talks to you, say this guy can change a game around. Okay, he has a talent, not just one time, but we had guys that could change games around whenever they had the opportunity. That's what they were. That's who they were, and to me, that was what our team.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to,
a word very close to legacy. Close to legendary is legacy. And for you to have, what's crazy, how many guys have an award named after them? You played with Ray Guy, and you both have awards named after you for the best collegiate player at the positions you played. So you want to talk about legendary, but I wanted to ask you, not about the Ray Guy Award, but the Biletnikoff Award. What's the story about how that came to be? And I mean, it's such an incredible honor to have your name attached to the best wide receiver award.
Well, you know, this year was our 26th year, believe it or not.
Wow.
So 26 years ago, a guy that was in the athletic department, Von Mancha, Coach Peterson, and the president of the university called me up and said, you know, we're looking at the ESPN awards. And at that time, you know, the ESPN, they had awards, but not like they do, not like the number they do now. And they said, well, you know, we started discussing that there's no receiver award. And what we'd do is like to start a receiver award out of Tallahassee, and with the Tallahassee Quarterback Club Foundation, and start an award. Would you be willing to put your name on it? I said, hell yeah. Who wouldn't? So it was just a phone call. That's how it got started.
Wow.
That's simple. There was no like meeting with corporate people, this whole deal and all this junk, you know, all that. Yeah, that's how we got started. That's simple. You know, just a phone call. That's it. And it's been great. I've been able to get to a lot of the awards, ESPN. I've been able to get to, we have a banquet the month of February in Tallahassee every year to honor whoever won the award, to honor them in Tallahassee, besides on ESPN. And it's gone very well, you know, and it's hard for me to believe, like I said a few minutes ago, 26 years ago.
Yeah, right.
You know, hey, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have stayed out later with Kenny Stabler. Okay. But that's how it got started. And, you know, the people in Tallahassee do a great job with it. You know, they handle everything. And, you know, the voting, you know, started with a few number of people. You know, now it's, my God, I'll tell you what, there's sometimes I look at the list when we start putting out the newsletter for people that are going to be named, you know, for the award for that year, you know, through college ranks. Okay. There's so many people on there voting. I'm going, my God, from where we started to this, my God, it's unbelievable. You know, and then, you know, I've always believed that, you know, like we've had two big guys, big time teams, which we've had always. Okay. Then we've had some guys from, you know, I don't want to say smaller schools, but schools that aren't on TV that much. Okay. Whatever, up for the award, which I've always been concerned with because because there's a lot of kids throughout this country that have phenomenal years. and sometimes they're overlooked. So we really try to draw back on that and try to get that more upfront, so everybody sees and everybody pays attention. And then, like I said, with everybody that we got, I don't know how many people voting. There's people all over the country, so it has changed that way. Without really making a focus on the elite team. There's still people that make a lot of impact, and maybe they've just had a outstanding year. But people that are in the focus of the public eye seem to be, you get tilted that way a little bit with the voting. So the voting's gotten a lot better. I'm happier with, and we have a lot more guys. The last 3 finalists, we have a lot more guys that are up for the award in that final group. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. And as we get closer to wrapping this up, I wanted to ask you, just, you were never known as, the breakaway speed guy, but you were just obviously very tough, but great route runner, great hands. What do you look at as a receiver for what makes a great wide receiver? And are there any guys, NFL or college, that you've particularly liked watching in all your time, since playing?
Oh, you know what? With that, answering that first, I love watching all these guys. I mean, it's phenomenal. These kids watching, it's like, holy man, what the hell is that? Let me look at that again. It's just amazing. It just totally amazes me, and that's the great thing, to be able to look at that and see that. And boy, I'll tell you what, there's guys out there that have a hell of a great deal of talent, man. God gave them something special. And with everything, like with me, I don't know. I just enjoy the award. I like to see the guys I played with. I played with a lot of great receivers. I played against a lot of great receivers, and that position is really, really dear to me. I mean, there's nothing like being a wide receiver. Everybody wants to be a wide receiver. Even those linemen on Saturdays when you're having workouts want to catch the ball and run routes. Okay, but that position is an attraction. I mean, if you're a wide receiver, you want to. I mean, if you're a player, you want to be a wide receiver because that's where the excitement is. That's where the thrill is. That's where the playing on the edge is. Being able to have enough toughness mentally and physically to drop a ball or screw up a route or miss a route or run a wrong route, whatever. And then in 30 seconds, you got to come back and go out there and do it again. So to me, that's always been the attraction, even when I was playing, when I was coaching, is having those guys that were able to do that. And to me, that's the difference in players, if they're able to do that, So that's part of the game that you have to be able to handle. It's part of the game that you chose to play this game. You might as well try to be the best. You might as well try to be that guy that loves living on that edge, because success comes and guys are pointing third down and you still got a whole game to play. Wait a minute. Okay. And you got to keep going. You got to keep working and know that, when you first start that game, you got to finish it. And things aren't going to go that well during the game all the time. And you got to be tough mentally. With guys now, guys now, it's a little bit different, I believe, because everything's a lot quicker, a lot shorter, that type of deal. And then you have the guys that really stand out. But it seems like now everybody contributes. They put the 4 wide receivers out there, so everybody has to contribute.
Right offense. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I look at that position with players. You just got to have that toughness. You got to have not only physical toughness, but that mental toughness. If you're not mentally tough, if you can't handle the mental part of the game with that position, you might be in a straitjacket by the end of the year. But that's how I look at it. That's the fun of it. That's the excitement. That's the excitement to me anyway. Everybody that I've been around, I think they have that excitement. The guys that were able to coach all those years and guys I played with all the years, they had that excitement. They loved that. They loved that part of the game.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. There's literally hundreds of things that I'd like to ask you, but I know we only have so much time, so I unfortunately am going to have to restrain myself. But what I'd like to do on our way out is go through this little thing I call the gauntlet. I have a couple questions I want to hear your knee-jerk answer on.
I'll give it my shot. That shot.
All right. Look back on your career, was there a favorite foe, a certain defensive back or team that you really look forward to playing every year?
Oh, the guys in Kansas City. Oh, Jesus, yeah. All the guys in Kansas City, yeah. They had best defensive backs. They had
Hall of Fame.
Oh, I'm happy about that. I'm really happy about that. He deserves it. Yeah. That was something that's been overlooked. One of the guys that I feel like always been overlooked. It's like the game one time we played against him when Johnny was in Canada, when he was there, and he said, stay away from him. He said, he'll knock your ass up, you better stay away from him. He said, no worries about the field all the time. And that was Billy's advice to me. He was right, but I can't knock anybody out.
Now, it's very well maybe your Super Bowl victory, where of course you won in DC, but did you have a favorite football?
Everybody's going to pick the ball and all that, and that whole thing. But I like the game when we beat Chula in Oakland. In that playoff game. There where Clarence had made that catch at the end, because during that game we all contributed to swap. We kept coming back, we kept hanging in there, and it came down to probably one of the, to me, we had a lot of exciting games that we won, but that one with that move the ball down the field and having to come back against them throughout the whole game. That was one of the games I looked at that I loved being in.
That's awesome. Now, whether it was while you were playing or in any time after, was there ever a player that you just would have really liked to play with or play against in your prime that you never had a chance to?
I wish I would have been able to play with her batterly instead of against them. But no, you know what? I would love to play with Lance Allworth, Tommy McDonald, and let's see, those two guys, and Jesus, my mind, Kansas City, the big tall receiver. My God, I feel embarrassed. Oh God, I can't remember him. Those are the three guys I would love to play with, because they had that super talent.
And I believe I heard you say that growing up, in Pennsylvania, Tommy McDonald is why you wore 25. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. He never believed me when I got on the Hall of Fame. I told him that he never believed me. I think he thought the time was BS to him all the time. Now I don't get to see him anymore, but yeah, he was my hero. He was the reason I wore 25, and I love watching him play. He personified everything that I wanted to be as a wide receiver. So that was Tommy to me.
Now, what do you think is most important in winning a game? Is it the players on the field, or is it the coaches and their scheme?
All the players on the field. You can I don't care what you put on that board or what you're practicing. If you don't have the players to go and make that work, it ain't gonna work. You got to have the players. The players on the field are the most important thing. Absolutely. Heck yeah.
All right. Well, this is the last one, and it very well maybe the most important question I ask you today, given everything you've accomplished as a Hall of Fame player, a coach for, a member of the Raiders for over 32 years, and of course, your foundation. You've done so much in your life. what's the best piece of advice that you would give to a young boy or girl that is just about to get a start on life? What would you say to them?
Oh boy.
If it's easier, we can talk just about athletes.
I'll tell you what. You just something. Be honest. When you commit to do something, do it, and don't be afraid to take chances, because there's a lot of life out there. There's a lot of adventure out there. Just go ahead and do it. But you got to be strong enough that when there's repercussions, you got to be able to deal with them. And don't be foolish. Don't be like they say. Don't smoke dope. That's why they call it dope. Stay away from all that crap. Stay away from all that drugs and everything. And make sure that you're hanging around with a good group of people your entire life. And always try to be influencing somebody. And don't be somebody that sits on the back burner. Be somebody that's going to be up front and fighting for everything. Because that's what life is. You got to want something, you got to fight for it. And that's just the way life is.
Awesome. Very wise words right there. A lot of good stuff. I was always told you're an aggregate of the 5 closest people to you, so you certainly want to be careful of the company you keep.
Yep. That's it.
Well,
that's it.
Brett Biletnikoff, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Steve, thank you so much. Okay, you take care of yourself. Enjoyed it.